Good morning, Mr. D.
Morning.
All right, we are live, and before we get this party started, we just got to hit that button because today is Lovesexy anniversary, May 10th, 1988, and today is May 10th, so we got to give a shout out to. All right, now we can continue as scheduled.
Yes, I remember that day fondly.
Yeah. So, how are you today, Michael Dean?
Good morning. I'm good. Good. How are you guys?
So, what you remember, C. Lee?
I remember that my cousin, big head ass, beat me to the record store. That's the first thing I remember. And I remember him telling jokes about, he told the joke about when the guy gave him, because they were actually unboxing the record when he bought it. Like they were still unboxing it that day. And when so that's the first time he saw the cover, and he told, "Hey man, put the cover face down, put it face down, put it, and slide it into the bag, put it face down, slide." And so when he got home, he was like, he pulled it out the bag, like, "What's up with our boy, man? What's going on? What's up with this, right?" So that literally he bought it that day, and I remember we listened to it, and then after we listened to it, I jumped in the car and luckily the my record store on my side of town was really close, and I just remember going and getting it, and it was one of the few times. I know I just thought about this. That record was the first time that my father and uncle listened to a Prince record with me for the very first time that I'd heard it.
Oh wow!
I just thought about that. I just remember that because we were at I was in college. We was at my father's house. Of course, Alphabet Street was out. So I remember Alphabet Street had been playing on the radio. It was spring. It was spring of my freshman year in college. And I was walking back and forth to school so I remember walking home singing. It was about a 15, 20-minute walk singing Alphabet Street in my head. Like it was that fresh. It was that new. It was that fun. So all that. So, but yeah, that's what I remember was just thinking about this. And my father and my father and uncle, they just looked at me and they went, "Your boy Prince did it again." So that's and I also remember like they weren't fazed by the album because they'd come up through Parliament, they'd come up through Betty Davis, they'd come up like that album, that cover, a lot of like more conservative folk that and I remember, and the only other thing I'll say about that is I was taking art appreciation in college because that's that early stop stuff they make you take, and the professor, who was a very attractive young professor. She had a PhD, but she was like a very attractive young professor. She was using that photo album cover to talk about photos that have the same quality as actually painted pictures. I remember that. I remember her talking about that because she had read an article about the cover. So anyway, so all those things kind of converged. That was my Lovesexy, get it out the box, first listening experience. I'll shut up.
Nice.
What about you, Michael Dean? What you remember about Lovesexy?
I don't remember buying it the first time. As much as the controversy of the cover, I can only remember seeing news reports about controversial cover. You got to hide it behind the counter, but I don't remember, a big thing to do to go buy it. I just remember getting the record and I just didn't know what to make of it, just audio wise. Aside from I Know and Alphabet Street, I was kind of bewildered by, the sound of it. I was like, wow, again, it was just the usual thing. Once again, he was in a different place. I'm trying to catch up. So it was just a lot of listening. And I think at this time, at least among my friends, the tide had kind of turned.
Right.
But, they wasn't really trying to hear no Prince stuff, but I was still immersed, obviously I'm still immersed in it, but I was just like, are you guys kidding? And I can imagine, I imagine the cover and all of that probably was even more so for the guys I was with, was just like, nah, we ain't trying to hear that, Mike. But yeah, I just remember I was so hyped to get it. And all I can remember is Alphabet Street was just such a jam at that time. Like I was just like, so it was just, again, one of those things where was one or two songs I could identify with, and the rest I just kept listening and starting to get into it. And it wasn't until I saw the concert where the album opened up for me.
Yeah.
And I'll say, because Prof Duff, I want you to talk about your experience, but I will say this, because I did not buy, I want to get it straight. I want to be straight. So Diamonds and Pearls was the first Prince album I bought as a CD. Like in real time. So, and then I went back and got everything else in CD. So having the Lovesexy album, I'm glad that's I see Big Sexy. I'm glad. So I had the album. So I did not know that it was tracked, right? I did not know that it was tracked. I heard I remember something MTV mentioned it, and then some other folks mentioned it. I remember some other. So I didn't know that, but because I was listening to the whole album front to back anyway, I was kind of like, what's the big deal? And remember I talked about Parade being the album that made me kind of, made me an albums person, no longer a single person. But that's the other thing I wanted to mention. I remember people bugging out about the CD was one track and you couldn't skip songs. But for me, since I only had the album, and then again, I didn't buy CDs. What was that, 3 years later, 91, so 88, 89, 90. So I didn't buy my first CD until 91. I just remember thinking, well, what's the big deal? I listened to the whole album anyway.
Right.
I shut up.
Yeah, I was the same. I didn't even know that was a thing because I didn't have a CD at that time. I was still somewhat vinyl, but I was a heavy cassette guy. So cassettes is all one track. Anyway.
Right.
So that never dawned on me until way later. Did you just say that the first CD you bought what album was it?
Diamonds and Pearls.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I think for me it was Graffiti Bridge.
Okay.
One of the first CDs I ever got.
I will say that my friend, one of my closest friends who lives in he lives in Minneapolis. He moved to Minneapolis. He was such a Prince fan. Moved from Mississippi to Minneapolis. Darryl Woods. Shout out, brother Darryl Woods. He gave me my first CD. He gifted me Graffiti Bridge, but I didn't have a CD player. In fact, show you how terrible I was. I bought the Diamonds and Pearls CD, and then I went back and ordered all the other CDs, and I didn't have a CD. So I had CDs for a year and couldn't play them because CD players were expensive. And shout out to Rex, because I got my first VCR from Rex and I got my first CD player from Rex. And so I went.
Or something?
So I had a.
It's a store,
I had a CD player. I had CDs a year before I actually had a CD player. So I probably.
Me too, CZ.
So it wasn't until I couldn't get the Love Symbol album. I couldn't find the album, so I was forced to get a CD player. So that was literally the Love Symbol album. I couldn't find the album, and I had to do that. So I'll shut up because I want to hear Prof Duff's Lovesexy unboxing.
I mean, to be honest, I don't remember buying the album. All I remember is the tour, 2 nights in a row at the Omni alongside Audria. I met my best friend, Kevin Roberts, who has passed on at the end of one of those nights. So it was an amazing, amazing show for me. Big Sexy wants to know, what was your first player?
That's a CD good player. That's a good question, Big Sexy. Go ahead and let me think on it because I got my first VCR player confused with my first CD player.
For me, it was Big Sexy. It was just a Walkman. Like that was all I could afford, but it took me a long time to afford the Walkman because I was buying CDs and the singles and the vinyl. And so because I wasn't working, I was saving my lunch money. I had to be very judicious. And for me, like getting the singles and the 12 inches were more important than actually owning the CD player because I still had my turntable and I was listening to that. Yeah, Lovesexy, the tour was like transformational. And it actually really spoiled me for all subsequent shows, including Prince shows. I mean, I can't express how big a deal the Lovesexy tour was. And it had a lot to do with the band itself, like Sheila on drums. Remember, I said for the Purple Rain tour, I was all about girl. I mean, to be honest, even for the 1999 tour, what I remember from the 1999 tour is Vanity 6, Girl Power. What I remember from the Purple Rain tour was Sheila E., Girl Power. And then seeing Sheila on the drums and then seeing Kat's energy with Prince, it was all about girl power. So it was so amazing to see that tour 2 nights in a row, like how it starts. You know, the car, I mean, like the stage, you know, setup is insane. We all know that. But in case we have some newbies here, just search out Dortmund, Germany on your YouTube to see the Lovesexy show. You got to see it. And I've said this before, but it bears mentioning. When I meet, quote unquote, casual Prince fans, and they've gone to a Prince concert, if they went to the Lovesexy concert, they always say, even non-casual Prince, casual Prince fans say that Lovesexy is the best tour that they've ever been to, bar none. Even like casual fans that I've met who are music heads, they have to be music heads. Like if they're music heads, they say it's all about. So it was really, really amazing to see that live. For sure, Tanja, yeah, that tour changes lives. It really, really does. And yes, I don't know if he was the first, because I think we talked about this in a...
Yeah, because Luther Vandross had an in the round. We discussed that.
We discussed that, yeah.
Yeah, Luther Vandross had a great in the round tour during that time.
Yeah, so it wasn't the first, but it was the first time I saw, you know, a tour in the round. So one of my favorite photographers, his name is Duane Michaels. He says that nothing has occurred until you have experienced it for yourself for the first time. So, oh, really? Do you guys not hear that? You don't hear the Lovesexy button?
No.
Huh, that's really interesting.
Yeah, I wonder. I thought, yeah. I knew you had done it earlier, and I didn't hear it.
But did you hear the music?
No, we didn't hear the music either.
So you didn't hear
cold open.
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah.
Okay,
I thought maybe you had already started the show or something when I came in.
No. So I played a whole song. I got to figure out what's going on with my audio. Oh, let's see. Let's see. Maybe this will do it.
You got a little louder there. You sounded clear.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I had.
There you go.
Is that it?
Yep.
Okay, here we go then. I've been jamming out to Night Out.
World.
Yeah. Oh my God. So
she been jamming by herself.
Yeah, I've been jamming by myself. Oh, I don't know. Okay, old age. That's all I can say. All right. So Big Sexy said saw Ohio players in the round in 1974. Now that is a show to see. I'm jealous. Big Sexy.
So I wanted to check because I always get these confused. But yeah, I saw Lovesexy in Memphis. I saw it at the Mid-South Coliseum. And to Lovesexy's question, the reason I was struggling was because, remember, I bought my first VCR and my first CD player from Rex. That was the boot player. I bought both of them on layaway. And so, and for those of y'all who don't know what layaway is, kids, layaway used to be when you couldn't afford. Layaway was before financing. And what they would do is you would put $10, $20 down on it and pay $10, $20 a week. And so the reason I was struggling remembering what was my first CD player was because I always got the cheapest one. I wasn't going for quality. I wasn't going for one thing. I am not a sound or audio snob. Just because I was always broke and I was spending so much money on Prince music, I had to get the cheapest player I could get. So I think it was a Sony. Because that's just kind of what I remember. So I think my first CD player, Big Say, I want to say that probably my first VCR may have been a Sony as well. I'm not sure. So, all right, so I said
I love this comment from Audra. My dad bought me what he thought was a Walkman, but it was actually a small radio with a shoulder strap. I just sucked it up and told him thank you.
You're a good child. Look what I got my baby girl. Look what I got baby girl. Baby girl gonna love this.
He didn't get you a Nintendo. He got you Tendo.
Oh my God. So I wanted a Nintendo, Michael Dean, and we were not, I mean, we had chicken and rice every single day, 6 days a week. I'm not kidding. 6 days a week for years. We would have something special on Sunday, but that's it. And so I really wanted Nintendo, and my mom was like, nope, but she got me this game called Odyssey. And when I first got it, I was like, I don't want no darn Odyssey, but it turned out to be one of my favorite games, consoles that I've ever had. So I'm grateful. And, you know, my mom had to break me. Like, I wanted the Jordache jeans and all of that. We couldn't afford any of that. And so now I'm not anti-labels, but I don't need labels because my mom broke me of that, like when I was in my single digits. So for me, it's not about the brands anymore, but I definitely wanted actually, it wasn't a Nintendo. I wanted an Atari. I wanted an Atari, and I got an Odyssey.
So
the 2600 or the Jaguar, or remember?
I don't remember.
You got me right where I want to be, and I promise you this is a true story. My cousins had Atari. So then Intellivision came out. And I asked my pop, I said, Pop, can I get an Intellivision? And my pop looked at me and said, see, boy, that's your problem. see, boy, you want that Intellivision because you ain't got no imagination. I like, imagine, what the hell, like, imagine. See, if you had some imagination, he said, boy, let me tell you what you need to do. If you had some imagination, you would take the box and put the box on top of the TV. And then you would imagine you had something. See, let me tell you about your brother. Let me tell you about my uncle. Let me tell you about your Uncle Punchy. Your Uncle Punchy, see, could never beat me in nothing because he ain't have no imagination. If we had that, I'd have put the box on top of the TV, and your Uncle Punchy would have never beat me because he wouldn't have had no imagination. So, boy, get you some imagination, and you won't need no Intellivision. That was mine. So I never got Intellivision. That's what I got. Was that dumbass speech about imagination.
I love that story, Celie. Thank you for sharing it. All right. So I just messed the whole beginning up, but that's okay. I just want to really quickly say we had Kimberly Silvas first in the chat, which I've never seen Kimberly first in the chat, or I've never seen your name. So I don't know if this is your first time joining us live. If so, thank you. And if not, thank you again. And then in second place, we had Cassandra Bradley. And Cassandra said that there was a whole lot of shaking going down here in Atlanta from the earthquake. My mom did tell me about this earthquake. So I guess they're okay. No harm. So good morning, my beautiful people. So I'm so sorry that you had to experience that. And I just want to say, Real Line of DJ, welcome. I always love to see what you have for your avatar. And I can't figure out, what is that? The purple one. Is that a book? I've never seen that. Yes, I love this. Life been lifing, but I'm still on the one. May the funk keep us one with thee. Love that, Real Line DJ. And we got Sister Charles, and I can't say hello to everybody because I wasn't all right and all that, but welcome everybody. And again, today is Lovesexy Day. So for those of you who came in going like, why are they talking about Lovesexy? Because it is Lovesexy. All right, got my button working. That's what I'm talking about. Okay. And let's see. Oh, ColecoVision.
Yep.
ColecoVision is a better game. No, I don't know.
Oh, by the way, for people interested, there are actually YouTube platforms completely dedicated to the history of home video games. And they are fascinating. Like, they take you through the whole history of Atari, the whole history of Intellivision. So if you were into that, or just I watch them just for nostalgia. You're exactly right, Blade Brown, because them damn things skip, especially when they start putting them in your car and they were talking about anti-skip in your car. Hit a pothole, see what happens. You miss a whole damn song. So you're right, Blade Brown. So yeah, so if you like those things, go on, search YouTube, and you'll see the whole history of Atari and television. And what I love is that they break down the competition, the rise and fall of each console. It is really, really fascinating, particularly for those of us who grew up in real time with those games. I'll shut up.
All right, so a couple things. I already put this up. I got to put it up again because sometimes Duane watches these. I want you to see that the people's wants the Lovesexy era. Lovesexy. Next. So I know that's what he's working on, but I don't want him to change his mind. So we just got to remind Duane that Lovesexy is in demand. And then Nick wanted to know, did the Alphabet Street and Glam Slam videos get a lot of play? Now, I'm glad you brought this up because the Alphabet Street is one of my favorite Prince videos, even though it's very DIY.
Yep.
It's very DIY. Like they filmed it like during a snowstorm, and Prince was like, I want to film this video during the snowstorm. And I can't remember who actually filmed it, but like they had to literally go through the snow to get that set up. And green screen, blue screen technology wasn't what it is today, but I love that video because Prince really looks fantastic. You know, the hair is blowing. He's really feeling it. And it's one of my, he's happy. I love Happy Prince. And so it's one of my favorite videos. Now, so Alphabet Street definitely got a lot of play. I don't remember Glam Slam getting a lot of play, but I'm not the best with my memory.
So go ahead, brother.
Well, I was gonna say I remember Glam Slam getting a lot of play. I remember seeing it all the time, for sure. I don't know if it was BET or MTV, but I always remember seeing that. And I remember it because I didn't want that to be the single. And when it came, I was like, why is he? And it was a trip to me. I was like, this must be doing something, because I remember I would see the video all the time. I would hear the song on my local radio station a lot. I remember distinctively, I used to work at McDonald's at the time. There was a young lady that was working there, and I was trying to holler, and we ended up going on a drive. I used to drive a lot, so we would drive, and we would drive into the park. And I just remember when Glam Slam came on, and she started singing it, and I was like, whoa, like, this was at the time where I didn't think anybody else listened to Prince but me, you know, at that point. So I was just so like, wow, how is she singing that song? And I didn't know what the song was about either, you know, so I didn't catch why she probably was trying to sing it. But I just remember like, man, okay, Prince must be doing something. But I wanted to go back to Alphabet Street real quick. I agree with everything you said. I think the thing that stood out with me with that video is that it didn't look like any other video. And I didn't have a concept of the low budget so I was just like, wow, this looks real. Like, how come he looks like he's really there, as opposed to, I guess, you know, everything that was shot on film at the time, and he just shot on video. So to me, not knowing any of the backstory, I just thought that was the realest Prince video ever. I was like, man, that's what he really looked like, and he was fly as hell, you know, everything. So I just
very fly.
So a couple of things about the Alphabet Street video. Number one was in real time, and I'm glad Towsby put that up, figuring out all of the secret messages in the videos. The ones I remember off the top of my head was, there was one message that said, sorry, don't buy the Black Album. I remember that. And then there was one that says, hell is for punks. So those, I remember those. So I remember hell is for punks and don't buy the Black Album. And I also remember my uncle. And this is the first time I kind of thought about it, because, and this will put it in Prof. You said this before, particularly for those of us who were fans before Purple Rain. So for those of us who were fans before Purple Rain, Prince was always a solo artist. So I remember when the Alphabet Street came out, the video came out, my uncle, who by that time we had indoctrinated him and he was like a Prince fan. He had seen the Syracuse show. He'd seen the birthday show. So my uncle was pretty, you know, my pop was always up on Prince, but my uncle got mad at the video because my uncle went off with like, see, that's what's wrong with Prince. Look, see, you know what that video say? That video say Prince is about Prince. Where the band at? Where everybody said? And I was kind of like, well, he kind of played all them instruments, so that looking at the band. But my uncle's point was, he always felt like somehow, this was my uncle's point, not mine, that Prince was hurting himself by always changing musicians. And so he really saw that alpha, and it was just really interesting to see how people read into things. He saw the Alphabet Street as Prince being just about Prince, and you know, we could get more if Prince had a steady legion of musicians. And my argument has always been one of Prince's geniuses is that he always found the right musicians to execute the sound that was in his head at the time. That's why I don't have a favorite Prince musician or a favorite Prince band, because every band and every musician was right for what he was trying to do. So that's what I'll say about the Alphabet Street, everything that y'all said, but just it was fun finding those little messages. And about Glam Slam, it was played a lot, but my only thing with Glam Slam was Glam Slam and Party Man, and for two different reasons, but they were the only two videos that I struggled recording. Like I could never catch it. Like you turn it on and you have the damn video. But I want to give a shout out to somebody who doesn't get a lot of shout out. And there's a brother named Paul Porter who went by El Capitan at BET. He was the VJ for the Monday Music Marathon on BET. And if you remember the Monday Music Marathon, they would play one artist videos all the time. And at least one Monday a month. So remember, they were doing the Monday Music Marathon. At least one Monday out of every month, Paul Porter would play all of Prince's videos. So Paul Porter, El Capitan, it was called Video. Now Video Vibrations was another show. I'm trying to remember the show that Paul Porter, you never saw his face. You never saw his face. So somebody look up Paul Porter. Thank you, Sister Tanja. Paul Porter, and what the show he was the VJ of, and they would do the Monday Music Marathon, and he would play all of Prince's videos. And so that is how I was always able to always have all of Prince's videos. Was it Video Vibrations? Because it seemed like Video Vibrations was another show.
I thought that was the female host. Like
yeah. See, I always thought the Video Vibrations was the other show. So somebody look up Paul Porter or look up BET VJs, and because I remember looking up BET VJs, and you'd see what shows they hosted. All right, that's it. I'll shut up.
All right. So for those of you who are just joining us and wondering, like, why are we talking about Lovesexy and Glam Slam? Because today is the anniversary of Lovesexy. All right. Okay. We're gonna get this party started. Kim is not here, so we could talk all we want to.
We're gonna be on for 5 hours a day. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
we gonna hit Brother D with the 112. He gonna hell no, I ain't got no 112 in me. I ain't gonna hit it 112 times.
Oh my God. So we're doing our salon early today, but deserves to be talked about. I just want to say, okay, what did Prince do this week? Week 19 of 1985. This is a very slow read. I need to say this for our new people. We are reading a book, a very slow read of Duane Tudahl's Prince Studio Sessions book series through an interactive weekly online book club and Saturday Salon. Thank you, Celie. Yeah, that's right. Echoing the spirit of the Harlem Renaissance. So this is what we are doing every week. So we're not really talking random stuff, just FYI. Yeah. So I just want everybody to know what we're doing. We have an intention every week. Okay. So Myron is saying Video Vibrations is Paul Porter.
Okay, good deal. I just wanted to make sure. So the female host must have taken over because then BET went through those kind of changes where they would change and upgrade some stuff because there was I'm trying to remember what was the show that Pheromone was it Pheromone or was it
Pheromone.
Yeah, Pheromone was the theme song for the video show.
I think it's Video Vibrations, right?
Okay.
I get all my BET shows all mixed up together, unfortunately.
What's that lady's name? Now that you say that, it was a female host.
It was Sherry Carter was one of them, but
she was one, but it was a different.
Yeah, I was not a big Sherry Carter fan. I was a fan of Angela. So Alvin Jones was the unseen. You had Alvin Jones, but you also had Paul Porter because I remember Paul Porter always called himself El Capitan. That's why I remember Paul Porter because he always called himself El Capitan. So Alvin Jones may have. I do remember Alvin Jones, brother Nick Felton. I do remember Alvin Jones. Angela Stribley. Thank you, Big Sexy. Angela Strippling. Yes, indeed. And everything you need to know, you got right there, brother Wiggins. But I let me say this, and this is no shade. I didn't like Sherry Carter because I was such a Donnie Simpson fan.
Mm-hmm.
And Sherry Carter, and correct me if I'm wrong, Sherry Carter was more of a talking head. She didn't have a music background. And I kind of resented the fact that they put her on there just because she was pretty. And when you have somebody like my brother D, so I was always kind of like, even at that young age, I felt like, don't talk down to me. Don't. I'm here for the music. I'm here for Donnie Simpson. I'm here for what all this represents. Screen scene. There we go. I remember screen scene. And so I was, and again, just not no hate towards Sherry Carter. But it was just, I always felt like what Donnie Simpson had was so sacred to me because he was a music cat. And to have Sherry Carter on there just really kind of, for me, I was upset about them adding her. Although I will say the time she interviewed Tony M was pretty cool. I'll say that. We can't hear you. You on mute.
Yeah, Steven's done the reading and is subbing for Kim. So we got to get started in talking about that. But I want to make sure I was trying to Google Paul Porter, and there's a whole interview.
There we go.
An hour and 14 minutes of Paul Porter. So I'm sure we can figure out. It seems like I went with my Googling, he was like the program director of BET. So maybe
he was also a VJ. He was a program director and a VJ. Okay.
Yep. All right. So let's get back to what did Prince do this week. We're going week to week, night, day to date. You can follow detailed schedule at this bit.ly link or QR code. You do not need the paperback to participate, but we already did a hold up of the books, and these will be archived at Polished Style as well as at MDean. Please take a moment to hit the like button and help spread the word. Again, for Prince's work ethic, the YouTube algorithms are not very kind to my channel. So if you don't mind hitting the like button right now, that would be amazing. Yes, there was also a video LP, which I loved a lot. All right. And then hold on one second. Our hashtag is WDPDTW, and this is an independent endeavor. The state of Prince Rogers Nelson is not affiliated, associated, or connected. And our community guidelines, we choose to be a community even when we disagree. All right. We listened to Night Owl at the top of the hour, and it was composed by Levi Caesar Jr., Prince, Eric Leeds, and Sheila E. So we've got Eric Leeds on all of the horns and the flutes and some of the synthesizers, and the electric piano solo was Eric Leeds. And we got Atlanta Bliss on trumpets, Prince on synthesizers, Levi Caesar Jr. on bass, Sheila E. on drums, and Larry Fratangelo on percussion. And it was mixed by James Barber. Welcome.
That's my favorite song off that album.
Is it really?
Absolutely.
Awesome.
And
Rick.
And
good
brother
morning.
Rick showing up just in time, because I'll just say shout out to you, brother, for sending us that link with Eric Leeds on BT Jazz.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Eric Leeds on BT Jazz.
Yeah, I figured, like I heard you talking about Angela Stribling. I was like, oh yeah.
Yes, indeed, brother. Yes, indeed.
Okay. BET had the eye candy for the brothers back in the day, boy. They
Right.
But and again, I will say this, and I know I'm not trying to start to hate, but Angela Stribling was as knowledgeable as she was pretty.
Yeah, but she was a vocalist too. Like she actually did like jazz gigs.
Yeah, see, I believed her when she talked about music. And I'll just leave it there. I believed Angela Stribling. I felt that I could tell the way, I just knew that she was a music head and she wasn't there just for eye candy. I'll just leave it there.
So Rick, why are you so dark? Are you in the witness protection?
Damn. Shots fired.
Okay, hold on. I gotta open up a blind or two. Hold on a second.
Then why you? All I see is teeth and eyes.
Yes.
We got the warrants.
Lord.
Okay, this is the
But just to go back, since we on BT for a quick second,
Well, still not helping, but hey,
those hosts though, Celie, those were my fantasy wives though. So they did have a perp. Was it Rachel? Somebody saw and
yeah, Rachel Caribbean.
Harry Potter. What was the young lady from Teen Summit? The host.
Ananda Lewis.
Ananda.
See how Ricky said her name? So,
Ananda.
yeah, man. That was a big thing growing up for me. Like,
look, I tuned into Teen Summit and wasn't even a teen. I was
exactly.
I was a young adult.
Whoa, then again, pause. I don't know that.
Yeah, man. She Howard, she's actually going through some health situations, man. But she's she's going through some health stuff. But she was Howard University alum.
Okay.
Rumored at one point, was she a Prince girl? I know, was she a Prince girlfriend at one time or something?
Really?
You know, she's on. Is she on Rave?
Yeah, they
Are you talking about Ananda Lewis?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm thinking of something.
Yeah, I think she's on. Is she the one on Rave?
Yeah.
it's Rosario. I don't know. I you know. Oh,
yeah.
Pretty funny.
Prince.
Right. So actually Kim is here now. So
Uh-oh. Mom is here. Tighten up.
Kim, we haven't even started yet.
Kim could feel some foolishness was going on.
Right, exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Kim, she at home with a belt looking at
Joe Jackson.
No, she done come home early. We didn't expect her to come home to 11. She sneaked in on us. Oh, okay. I do gotta tell you this story. My mom was big on putting me on punishment. So y'all know I told y'all about that she tore up my Purple Rain ticket. So she tore up the Purple Rain ticket. So I was on punishment like that whole 6 weeks because you got your report card every 6 weeks. So my mom was big on going to church at night. And so when my mama would leave and go to church at night, I would play whatever album. So Purple Rain. So I would play the album like up loud, but I watch out. I would look out the window because I could see my mama coming up the street. So when I would see my mama coming out the street, I would turn the music down because I'm on punishment. So when I'm supposed to be listening to music, man, I was having myself a Prince concert. I had my little guitar and I was jumping around the living room. I was jamming, and I turned around with that guitar, and my mom was standing there staring me straight in the damn face. and I remember her saying, "Boy, Prince is gonna get your ass beat. Keep on fucking with me here." So that's Kim. Kim that sneaked home and caught us playing the music loud.
Oh man.
Okay. All right, here we go. What did Prince do this week? At the 122nd episode, week 19 of 1985. All right. One song and 6 studio sessions. This is what it looks like. It's all about Maserati this week.
Oh man, 100 miles an hour.
Yes, Weekend, which would transition into I Guess It's All Over. So Weekend was basic tracking by Brown Mark, and that's what he called the song. And then there was some mixing of 100 miles per hour on Sunday. Monday, there was a playing and something of the Parade album. And then there was overdubs and mixes of Jerk Out and 100 miles per hour. And then there was some stuff going on with Jealous Girl and Manic Monday. And then Jerk Out and 100 miles per hour, Guess It's All Over. When Prince came in, he heard Weekend. He changed the title, wrote some different lyrics. And then there's also something going on with the Mazarati album as a whole. And then Wednesday, 100 miles per hour, Strawberry Lover, same on Wednesday and Thursday. Then on Friday, Strawberry Lover, I Guess It's All Over, and basic tracking of My Man, which would eventually go to Jill Jones off of the amazing Jill Jones record. And supposedly Prince was off on Saturday. So that's what's going on. And this is Maserati week, as far as I'm concerned, in May of 1985. All right. So let's get our reading started. And we're going to start on page 126. Who wants to read about Weekend and 100 miles per hour?
I'll go first since I was late.
All right. Sounds good.
126.
Yes. Let's do it.
All right.
Weekend mix. Oh,
Sunday,
CDs go do
May
it.
5th.
Oh, well,
Oh,
who's
go
doing
ahead.
it? Rick is doing it.
Go ahead, Rick.
Okay. Sunday, May 5th. Monday, May 6th. Weekend mix, 100 miles an hour mix, Sunset Sound Studio 2, 2:30 p.m. to 12:45 a.m. Hey, that's a short session. Sunset Sound, 1:30 p.m., 6 a.m. Books locked out. Says producer Prince, artist Maserati, engineer David Z. Read the quote, skip the quote.
Skip it.
All right. On occasion, Brown Mark expressed that he wasn't happy with Prince's participation on the album. But that sentiment wasn't always held by the band members, according to the guitarist Tony Christian. We had some discussion of what the band thought about being taken over by Prince. I'm sure he had more songs, but he didn't force anything on us, and Brown Mark didn't try to pursue him one way or the other. We were very happy to have a Prince song on the album because he was hot, and we were definitely playing on his fame. Prince is a producer who gets results, who put this town on the map, not just in this country, but all over the world, agreed Sir Casey Terry. He cracks the whip. Sure he does. But this talk that he's an asshole and all that, why anyone who heads a big organization like this works the same way. It's great to get the whip cracked by somebody like Prince, who is so professional. To have Prince's songs on an album gave it instant credibility. 100 Miles an Hour would be Maserati's biggest hit when it was released as a single.
All right. So I just got to give thanks to whoever was involved with the originals for putting 100 miles per hour on the first, I'm hoping first originals, because there should really be some more volumes of originals. And 100 miles per hour is just such a scorcher. So if you haven't listened to 100 miles per hour and you're just like, what they talking about? Go listen to 100 miles per hour. It's in the accompanying playlist on my YouTube channel. Just go all the way down to the bottom. And speaking of that Andorra BET Live, I put that in last week's playlist. And I forgot to mention, did you know that that was Jerry Allen accompanying Eric Leeds on that BET Jazz? Like, Jerry Allen was a big deal. She's gone on, but I was like, wow, Eric Leeds played with Jerry Allen? That's pretty amazing.
No, I didn't catch that. But you know, you said something, and it's time for me to do my weekly segue. Dear Estate. It's time for a Dear Estate moment. We would so love to have more volumes of the originals. So we know you have them. They are fan favorites, and we love them. So please, Dear Estate, do us a solid. Do D'Angelo a solid. Give us some more originals.
Yes, we would love to have some more originals for sure. All right, Celie, can you take
Good segment.
Good job, brother Rick.
Monday, May 6th,
Monday,
1985.
May 6th, 1985, Parade album, playback and copy. Jerk Out, Overdubs mix. 100 Miles per Hour, Overdubs mix. Jealous Girl, likely transferred to New Reel. Manny Monday, likely transferred to New Reel. Sunset Sound Studio 3 p.m. to 6 a.m. Booked and locked out. Producer Prince, artist Prince of Mazarati, engineer Peggy Mac Leonard. Skip the quote or go to quote?
Yep, skip it.
All right. With a few days since he put together the as yet untitled Parade album, Prince listened to it again and looked in the studio and probably spent some time adjusting the order and mixes. It is also likely that he was preparing to send the tape to Claire Fisher to add his orchestral arrangements to the tracks. Prince was happy with the way Fisher added his touches to the Family album, and he wanted his influence on this project as well. According to Fisher, quote, Prince didn't write or read music, so he sends us cassette tapes on my own. And my son Brent has a brilliant pair of ears, so I have him transcribe them, end quote. Trying to see this quote. Oh, this is Fisher's son. Quote, it's a top secret project, and the tape that he sent us was the tape with the whole album on it, according to Brent Fisher. Fisher continues, so I started transcribing those Prince songs one by one and giving him the kind of detail that he had been missing from the rough sketches, writing out the entire bass line, the drum fills, and the vocal parts, including background vocal parts. Everything is needed to wrap the music in a velvet cloth of a Claire Fisher arrangement, end quote. That's a great detail.
Yeah.
Once the tape was received by the Fishers, they worked frantically to have it completed and rehearsed within the next few days. During the session, Prince also brought Maserati's Jerk Out and 100 Mile per Hour back into the studio for David, and after David Z mixed them. It was common for Prince to add his own flavor over someone else's sound. Quote, I've never seen anyone grab your instrument and show you how to do something. He had the ability to play everything, and if he wanted to tweak something or whatever he wanted to do, he could come right over and he could show you how, he can show you what he's hearing, end quote. That's Brown Mark. Brown Mark explained. Brown Mark continues, quote, here, let me have that bass. And he would show me. He was a phenomenal musician. I don't think since Mozart there's ever going to be anybody else, not in our generation, end quote. Prince supposedly added a few musical overdubs to Jerk Out and 100 Miles per Hour and mixed them down once again. It appears that Jealous Girl and Likely Manic Monday were placed on new tapes during the session, probably to be able to give them to the Bangles if they chose to use either or both songs as their master. 2 C90 tapes were made at the end of the session.
All right.
So did I understand that there's like a possible chance that there is some tape of the Parade soundtrack? I know without the arrangements, string arrangements and stuff like that. Wow,
that is correct. Yes,
that would be great to include on a super deluxe. The pre or demo versions of that album, say without the string arrangements, and then of course having it with the string arrangements.
Yeah.
So what I find really interesting, so I I put the Maserati version of Jerk Out in the accompanying playlist, and I listened to it this morning because I hadn't listened to that version in a while. And the music is Jerk Out as we know it. And I really love Maserati. So this is not a diss on Maserati, but it wasn't a good fit for Maserati just because of the delivery, because it's like he just speaks it. It's not, like it's like a spoken kind of word kind of thing. And if it would have been released, I don't think that it would be so beloved by me. Well, first of all, Jerk Out is on Pandemonium, and Pandemonium is my favorite time record. I know we can get into like obviously what time is it? Has 7779311. I don't want to leave you, blah blah. But as a whole, is my favorite record. And when I was listening to the Maserati version this morning, I just kept hearing Morris's delivery. Like he just owns that song. And I'm just curious, like, why did Prince think that this would be a possible good fit for Maserati? And I'm curious how you feel, all of you feel about Maserati's version of Jerk Out.
So I listen to Maserati's version all the time. I got it on one of my playlists. I have a playlist called Purple Family. And that's generally for Prince proteges that I don't like their whole album, right? So if you're a Prince protege and I don't like your whole album, I kind of got you on that playlist for the songs that I like by you. And for me though, and you guys know this is who I am, I'm a lyric guy. And so the racial content of those lyrics are why I really, so I hear what you're saying about, like, I've never even in my mind compared the Time version to the Maserati version simply because the lyrics are so different. Mm-hmm. And so for me, I love that song simply for another reason is I wonder what Prince's legacy would be had that song come out with those lyrics, because those lyrics, like, we don't see that Prince until 90s, like that particularly racially specific, racially angry, dealing with specific racial issues in that way. And it was there. Don't get me wrong. It was there. I mean, I think the Black community knew where Prince's head and Prince's heart was. So I'm not saying we didn't know where he was, socially, politically. But so that's why I have an affinity for it, simply because I love the lyrics. And I just always think about, man, if that would have come out at that time, I wonder what it would have been. So because I listen to them as completely different songs, I don't hear it as a time song. I hear it as Prince wanting to get this message out, and Maserati at the time would have been the best vehicle to get that message out. I'll shut up.
Yep. And so Stephen M is saying Brown Mark's group. Yep. Maserati is Brown Mark's group for sure.
I would say about Jerk Out. I was not a fan of the Maserati version. I'm not really a fan of that or 100 miles an hour version either.
You don't like 100 miles per hour?
I mean, I like the song. I like Prince's version.
Okay.
I love, and I don't even like the version that's on the originals. Actually, to me, that's the wrong version. But neither here nor there. For me, Jerk Out. I just always saw it as one of those. It was a classic Minneapolis era Prince. I can only imagine if that would have came out on the second time album or the third album. I believe the song dates back to like 1980 or something, like 1981 when he first did it. So to me, it's just one of them songs that he's got that be on the shelf that could have been a burner, but he let it sit for 10 years essentially. And it was like, well, who's gonna get it? And I love that it did go back to the time. I think that's where it was supposed to be. And thank God, for whatever reason, Maserati didn't put it out, because it's perfect for Morris. I would have loved to hear Prince's version. I would love to hear Prince's version if that exists as well.
All right. Anybody else have anything to say? If not, we're going to move on to Tuesday. Go ahead.
I think he probably may have given it to Maserati because he was still feeling kind of salty about Morris and him leaving. And so he wanted, he felt that song was a good one. And so he probably, was like, like Maserati was maybe supposed to be kind of filling that void that man at the time left. And so he may have been thinking like, okay, well, let's give him some time songs, because both Jerk Out and say 100 miles an hour could have been potentially time songs. Like I could hear the time doing 100 miles an hour. I probably I'm not the biggest fan of like Maserati's version of Jerk Out, just because I heard the Times version first. And so I'm more partial to it. And then like Mike says, it just fits them, like it fits Morris's personality because that's how it was written. So it kind of plays that. And so I know the lyrics are different, but yeah, it just has, Jerk Out just has that time feel. And I think it was written for them, whereas, like it wasn't written, say, for Maserati. So it was kind of hard to for them to, pull that off.
Yeah, you got to have a certain type of swag or personality for that song, and I think the way Prince and Morris and them, the way they come across and how authentic they are with these records that they do, it just goes to show, even though the music and everything Prince wrote was dope, if you don't have that, it hit different, and I'm going to say this, and this is my guy, but even the family, as dope as that is, the only thing that was it just didn't have, I didn't believe the people singing the songs. It just don't have the same kind of soul, I guess, or experience or something that just comes through the vocals. Even when Morris is clowning or he's in his persona, he's authentically in that persona where I know they're not real pimps or gangsters, but I believe the persona. I believe the narrative that, this is what the time is. These is brothers with suits. They might beat your ass if you, it's just where they kind of look, but they're funky, them brothers from around the corner. And when they sing them songs, I believe it. I believe that that's their real get down. And I didn't believe Maserati when their version. Sounds cool, but I don't really buy them as personalities. That they don't live that. They're not doing that.
Yeah. And I would say that also, and I agree with you 100%. I'll say props to Prince because he could have attempted to give us the Time 2.0. Like if he really wanted to, if he wanted to keep Jess in the fold. And so I would say that, pretty much agreeing with what everybody else, saying. I do like the fact that the family and Maserati, though in the same family, to not to use a pun, were not trying to be the Time 2.0. And so I hear what you guys are saying about that. But that was always the cool thing for me, was that I was just glad that we got something different with the family and Maserati. Though I didn't like them as much as I liked the Time. They kept my interest because they didn't seem like a retread, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I just always thought that was I respected and appreciated that, and I just say what I say, that Prince never tried to give us the Time 2.0. That just made me really respect him more as an artist. I'll shut up.
Yeah, so for me, I mean, I love the family record predominantly because I loved Claire Fisher's strings. And that also was like the beginning for me of my love of Eric Leeds, because you have to understand, like, that was the first time Eric Leeds was on studio tracks, that were released, as well as Claire Fisher. So that was like a revelation for me. I really love Maserati also in real time, just because it had more of a rock bent to it. And I love how the bass is really high up in the mix, because one, it was Brown Mark's band, and I love bass. So I liked both of them. The Maserati album, in my personal opinion, is actually a really good record. I mean,
it is.
It really is a fantastic. I still listen to it often, and so I don't know. I really love them both. They were all different.
So
go ahead.
Highlight, I want to mispronounce the name. Is it Duck Swan?
Ricky, you're doing something.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. So Duck Swan, I just want to add, I mean, you're being funny, so I'm not, but I want to just be clarified that Prince wrote the lyrics of both of those songs. So I think that's a compliment to Prince's wide range of writing about different things, that he wrote the original lyrics. And I think Prof. Duff and I discussed this either 2 or 3 weeks ago, that there are 2 reports on what caused the original lyrics of Jerk Out, right? I was always told that it had something to do with the airport and them being stopped at the airport and them being racially profiled. But then I think in Brother Tudahl's book, it's supposed to be about Vandy's relationship with her father. And so, but whatever the case, Prince is dealing with this kind of, you have to see the girl in the original lyrics as a metaphor, right? Therefore, for a metaphor of Prince discussing racism. What's up, brother Benjamin Bradley, a local Mississippi musician. So that's a great local Mississippi musician and photographer there. What's up, brother Ben? And so I just want to point out that Prince writes both the lyrics for Ice Cream Castles and the original lyrics of Jerk Out. And I think that speaks to, for me, Prince as a poet and storyteller who can discuss a lot of different subject matters. I'll shut up.
A couple of things. I want to highlight Lee Christian's comment. I tell my students, you got to listen to an album 3 times in a row, back to back to back. Like, never listen to an album once before you make your verdict on it. There's some really great songs on the Mazarati record. So give it another chance, Lee Christian. That's one thing. And then the other thing is, Carol, I felt the exact same way when I was seeing all of the photos from the Met Gala. I said Prince would have shut it down. If you like, I can imagine if Prince was still with us, he would have shut that down.
Can I say something about that?
Yeah.
When it was announced several months ago that the Met Gala theme was Black dandyism,
Mhm.
I actually wrote an article called Prince and Black Dandyism and talking about the Met Gala. So if you guys go to my Substack, you can search for an article that I wrote called Prince and Black Dandyism, and it's about the Met Gala. So I tie together what's happening with the Met Gala and how Prince should be seen as one of the central figures of Black Dandyism. Thank you, Sister Tanja. I appreciate that. All right, I'll shut up.
So like which era of Prince like would have done the Met Gala, like the Under the Cherry Moon, like Christopher Tracy mode, or was it the musicology mode?
Well, I would say with the Met Gala, I would say they did a pretty good job of running the gamut that you could see Under the Cherry Moon and Lovesexy. And actually a little bit of the musicology era. Because I what I really like about what the people who did it with the Met Gala is they were not very limited. Instead of being narrow in what Black dandyism is, they were really wide. So I saw some things that reminded me of Under the Cherry Moon. I saw some things that reminded me of Lovesexy. I saw some things that reminded me of musicology. So I think that you could see a lot of Prince because that's what Prince was. Prince was always pushing the needle forward, and I think it was Dr. Finkel said, whenever Prince walked into the rehearsal with a new haircut, he knew the music was about to change. That's what dandyism is. For those you don't know, that's what dandyism is. Dandyism is making a social political statement through your dress. And Prince was always about using his physical to represent where the music was going. I'll shut up.
Yes, and the time was Black Dandyism, and obviously Mr. Von Terry. Thank you so much for saying that. And I want to just double down on LTK's comment. I think the musicology era is definitely fun in terms of people talking about Prince's fashion. He was so clean, but he was always clean. But it was something different, a different swag about that. Okay, JD is saying the Today Show had a feature on the Met Gala, and Al Roker mentioned that he thought of Prince when discussing dandyism. Thank you for that, JD Washington. I love that. Yes. Love that. All right. Okay, Michael Dean, do you mind reading Tuesday, May 7th, the one about the National Enquirer? Because there's two of them on page one. Well, it's going on a different page for you.
Yes. Tuesday, May 7th, 1985. American Gossip magazine, the National Enquirer, published an expose about Prince titled "The Real Prince. He's Trapped in a Bizarre Secret World of Terror." The information was gathered from an interview with Prince's bodyguard, Big Chick Huntsberry. Chick's view of Prince was based on a perspective view. Chick's view of Prince was based on a perspective few were granted, so his thoughts were revealing, and in retrospect, often correct. When he said that, quote, Prince loves music, his only interest in life are himself and music. That's it. It's hard to deny that there is some truth here. That was probably one of the most painful experiences for Prince, having someone as close as Chick was to him quoted saying, Prince is certainly the weirdest guy I've ever met, and it's not put on for publicity. He really is weird. Prince would downplay how much it hurt him later that year in a Rolling Stone interview, quoted as saying, I never believed anything in the Enquirer. I remember reading stories when I was 10 years old saying, I was fucked by a flying saucer, and here's my baby to prove it. I think they just took everything he said and blew it up. It makes for a better story. They're just doing their thing. Right on for them. The only thing that bothers me is when my fans think I live in a prison. This is not a prison. Chick passed away in April of 1990 at the age of 49. Damn, that's young.
Yeah.
Before he passed, Huntsberry had stopped using cocaine and had become a minister. Although he and Prince never worked together again, Prince showed his love for Chick by performing a benefit show for his family on April 30th, 1990, at a club near Minneapolis in Golden Valley called Rupert's. Prince would eventually update the lyrics to Old Friends for Sale, hiding the pain he felt from Chick's betrayal. The new lyrics were not as personal and eliminated any references to Huntsberry and to being vulnerable. This was the official date on the cover of the magazine, but it was probably on the newsstands earlier. And Prince had likely heard that this was going to be released even before that. I will say that I do remember seeing the pictures from that performance. And if I'm remembering, that was sort of the first time you kind of saw I call it the nude tour sort of look that Prince changed. You know, he changed his look. And didn't he have like some kind of tassel type pants or something? And there's a cool picture. I wasn't going to make it into a poster where he's kind of looks like he sort of hops in the air, and he's on stage and he's like in the air. Yeah. And it's such a cool looking picture. I always thought it was really cool. I was like, wow, he's doing some sort of benefit show, you know. And I remember just seeing it in a magazine. It was just like, God, what was that all about, you know? Because you didn't get much information back then. But yeah, that was very interesting. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, you know, it's funny that simply because the story was in the National Enquirer, I didn't pay much attention to it. Like I didn't. It was just by that time, you know, National Enquirer was what it was. Like it was, you know. So I just remember seeing that cover, and at that time, you know, we were all everything Prince. But Prince on the news, when you pick it up, Prince, this, you know, you're getting it. That was one of the first times I remember looking, going like, oh, that's National Enquirer. There's no way in hell I'm getting that. Because so I just remember, just so folks can know. And I saw somebody put in that, you know, National Enquirer was like TMZ, particularly early TMZ. Yeah, National Enquirer was our filthy rag TMZ. I'll shut up.
Yeah, and we talked about this last week, but I really didn't like it when he changed the lyrics to "Old Friends for Sale" on the vault. I really do prefer the original lyrics because it's more emotional in the delivery as well, in terms of the vocal delivery.
Yeah,
okay,
that Doc is the Persia. Yeah, that's cute, Prince, but that ain't what we wanted. Yeah, that's the lyric.
You know, but it does speak a lot about the kind of person Prince was or is. You know, that he felt enough. You know, I'm not going to disrespect the family, or maybe he took it. You know, I actually think that's dope that he would go back and be like, nah, I'm not going to do my people like that. Even though they went out talking crazy about him, he was still a bigger person to, you know, do the show, and then even to change his lyrics, because a lot of people wouldn't do that.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. All right, I'm going to read the next, which is Tuesday again, Tuesday, May 7, 1985, Jerk Out Review Impossible Mix, 100 miles per hour. Review Impossible Mix Weekend. Early title for I Guess It's All Over. Review copy, Sunset Sound, Studio 3 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. That's right. Booked, locked out. Producer Prince, artist Maserati, listed as Prince, engineer Prince, assistant engineer Peggy Mac Leonard. We have a quote from Prince that is bolded. Thank you, Duane. I love that. By the time I pick up an instrument, be it the keyboard, the guitar, the bass, whatever, I've already heard the whole song in my head. All I'm doing at that point is committing it to music. If you trust that there is a God and let him do his thing through you, the songs come. I think this is actually one of the most important quotes in this book, in terms of Prince's work ethic and how he was able to generate so much output. It's insane to think about. Okay, Prince was constantly formulating new tunes in his head for his own records, and he maintained a strong influence over the music he created for his protege acts and in all tasks in the studio, remembers Peggy. My job was to stay out of his way and in some way help him achieve his vision, but it's not like he talked to me. This song's going this way, and what do you think? It wasn't like that. You just kind of had to interpret what he was doing. Prince reviewed the last few sessions that David Z had been overseeing with Mazarati, including a new song, Weekend. Although he liked the basic groove for Weekend, he wanted to change the lyrics. So he rewrote the song, giving it a new title, I Guess It's All Over. It appears that Prince did a rough assembly of the album and gave that to David Z to finesse. 5 C60 tapes were made of the collection, and Prince cut the session short after 3 hours. Now, and I just remembered that also in the accompanying playlist, I put in Mind Design's version of I Guess It's All Over. So if you want to hear a cover of a really fantastic cover of I Guess It's All Over, it's in the accompanying playlist. All right. Anybody have anything to say, or are we going to move on to our next reading?
I'll just say I want to give props to both Peggy Leonard and Susan Rogers. One, because they were there, they're documented, but they both talk about how a lot of times they had to intuit while they were working with Prince. And I think that their ability to intuit and give Prince what he needed is a very special skill. Because, you're working with someone who doesn't talk a lot, not giving you instructions. And I'll just say from my own personal, I just want a comparison. The 18 months or so, there were times that I didn't know when Prince was talking to me about the book or talking to me about something else. And I will admit that was probably one of my greatest failures, that my failure to intuit what he wanted. So to hear Peggy Leonard talk about being in the studio, and I've heard Susan Rogers talk about them being able to intuit, that's a skill that I think should be just recognized. And that's all I just wanted to say, that I appreciate her talking about that. I'll shut up.
All right, Rick, do you mind reading about Tuesday, May 7, 1985. There's a lot of Tuesdays, May 6th. The third Tuesday.
Sure is, isn't it? Okay, I got you. Tuesday, May 7th, 1985, the third edition. I Guess It's All Over. Well, this must have been after the lunch break. New title.
Yeah.
For Weekends and Maserati album edits and crossfade, Sunset Sound Studio 2, 3 p.m. to 1:30 a.m. Oh, that's a long session, booked and locked out. Read the quote, skip the quote.
Let's read the quote.
Read the quote from Brown Mark. Maserati started out as a producer project with just me trying to find a unique, different sound and image for them. Prince came in at the end of the project along with David Rifkin to put on the finishing touches. He also did the solo on I Guess It's All Over. The new lyrics to I Guess It's All Over were recorded, and Prince added a 12-string guitar solo to the track. That's interesting.
That's my favorite part of that song, actually.
Okay. Said the rest of the sessions, it consisted of David Z working on some additional edits, crossfades, while he compiled the album. The song Jerk Out was left off the collection when it didn't fit the band's new direction, according to engineer Coke Johnson. Jerk Out was just a slamming dance groove. This was supposed to be more glam rock, harder edge, not so disco funk oriented. It didn't fit the concept. 3 C90 cassettes were made of the newest version of the album. I find it very interesting that Prince did a 12-string guitar solo, because the only other person I knew that played a 12 strings was Ernie Isley. So,
I was going to ask you to talk a little bit about that and any of the musicians that's in, because I know 12 strings over 6 strings gives you more range, but could you talk, as a musician, Rick, and then, Brother Dean and Prof. Duff, if y'all may know more about that now. What does along with range, what does the 12 string give you that the 6 string give you? Is it something other than range? Is it tone or what?
More octave. You get it's almost like you're playing 2 strings instead of 1.
Okay.
So basically, it's not like you're playing each string separately. It's almost like you got the string and then you got an octave. So yeah, that's how I was told about it. Now I could be wrong because I'm not the guitar. I'm not a 6 strings a guitar player, but yeah, 12 strings just the octave. So most of the times you hear it, I think the times you can hear it on certain Isley Brothers songs because Ernie Isley's playing one. Mm-hmm. And it's mostly an acoustic type thing. I think when he does it, I think that's the one. I think that's what the solo is on this one too. That D'Angelo likes.
Yep, it's definitely acoustic. And then we have 12 strings give a deeper depth of filled sound, overtones galore. And Sitnick is saying,
Coming through with the lead belly.
Yeah. Famous for his 12-string guitar playing.
Okay.
And you know what's sad is lead belly. I'm a lead belly guy. For those who don't know, lead belly is a great blues musician. For those who don't know, unfortunately, whenever I see or read or hear about lead belly, what I hear is I want my daddy records back for the old Sanford and Son.
Yeah.
If you've ever seen that old Sanford and Son bit, which I should not because that really reduces lead belly. So shout out Sid Nick for evoking the name lead belly.
Hey, okay, did they do a movie about him?
Hmm.
In their movie about, I thought I saw something.
I know it's a documentary, but I'm not sure about a movie.
I saw a movie. I know the guy,
Okay.
Roger Mosley, I think was the lead character. I think it was Lead Belly. I could be wrong.
Okay.
So LTK has a question. So are the solos on Time Records Jesse, or doesn't Morris just give him a shout out to sell the gimmick, but it's really Prince playing? So
yeah, go ahead, D'Angelo. I'll let you take that one.
I mean, definitely for the first 3 records, it's Prince on the guitar solo. When it comes to Pandemonium, that's where things get a little tricky. And I think, like Skillet, that's definitely Jesse. And Blondie, that's definitely Jesse. So Pandemonium, and for me, is like the only true Time record in terms of the band, the Time. And the rest were pretty much Prince and Morris Day. Obviously, we know that Jesse Johnson wrote Jungle Love, but there's no guitar solo in Jungle Love.
Yeah.
Yeah, at the end.
At the end?
Yeah, at the end. Yeah, that's one of my favorite ones at the end. That and the Hear Morris Day go. That's it.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
That was like, look here. When I heard that in '85, that was the blackest thing I had ever heard on record in my life. Like that. And also to say, it also gets a little murky because how much of that for Ice Cream Castle is live and overdub for the stuff they did at First Avenue.
At First Avenue, right.
Yeah. So yeah, you got that murkiness too. So
yeah, you got that murky. Yeah, definitely for the songs, and yes, for Jesse on Jungle Love, and he's also on The Kid Can't Make You Come.
Yeah, because remember, Jesse tells the story about he knew that Prince was gonna have him so low in the mix that you could barely hear it. Mm-hmm. So he was doing some things because he knew. And here's the thing, though. And this is where I know I got bad ears, and I defer to y'all. Mm-hmm. I never thought about that as being low in the mix. Like, I always heard that. So does low in the mix mean I'm not supposed to hear it? Because the thing that I loved about The Kid Can't Make You Come is the guitar. And so I can always hear that. So hearing Jesse saying that it was low in the mix and he knew it was going to be low in the mix, I was like, damn, but I could hear, like I love The Kid Can't Make You Come for the guitar. So to hear that it was low in the mix, maybe I'm missing and don't understand what low in the mix means.
I don't think it's low in the mix. Is it? I mean, is it really low in the mix? Because that to me is also my favorite part about If the Kid Can't Make You Come is the guitar.
I wouldn't say it's low in the mix, but I wouldn't say it's super out front either.
Okay.
Okay.
I mean, like it kind of fits. It's kind of even with. I mean, it sounds like it's at an even level with the rest of the instruments. I think it may be buried by some of the other stuff going around it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Where like you just don't hear him playing, like you hear the dialogue and the talking and all that type stuff. I think that's what he may mean by it. It may be low, like in the mix. In that regard.
And thank you, Heavenly Gaines. You were right, Rick. Gordon Parks directed the Love Bellies. I forgotten about the Gordon Parks.
Okay, yeah, because Roger Mosley did that. Yeah, I saw
shout out to Gordon Parks. Shout out.
Yeah,
who actually took two of the most iconic. Because didn't he do the Great Day in Jazz and the Great Day in Hip Hop picture? Didn't he take both of those?
I know he did the first one.
Yeah. So well, if he did, and I know because Nelson George is trying to do a documentary on the Great Day in Hip Hop. And so they have footage of Gordon Parks. So shout out to Gordon Parks. If y'all don't know who you are, as Brother Dean would say, do your Googles. And I'll just say Shaft as a part of Gordon Parks. So let's I'll set up.
But then when you say Shaft, I think of Isaac Hayes.
Yep, there you go. You're right. There you go. There
The
you go.
first musician who actually, first African American to win like an Oscar for music
Yep.
was Isaac Hayes for Shaft.
That's right. That
Yes.
hot buttered soul.
Yep. All right. I'm gonna mute you, Ricky. I think you have like a TV or something on. Just FYI. So let's see. Next up is Wednesday, May 8th. Celie, do you want to take that?
Sure. Wednesday, May 8th, 1985, 100 mile per hour, mix, crossfade, and edit. Strawberry Lover, edits, vocal overdubs, and mix. Sunset Sound, Studio 3, 4 p.m. to 9 a.m. Booked and locked. Producer Prince, artist Maserati, listed as Prince, engineer Prince, assistant engineer Peggy Mack, Leonard and Coke Johnson. You want me to do the Alan Lee's quote?
Yes.
This is Alan Lee's. It was Mark Brown's project. Prince traditionally doesn't take a lead of interest in male groups. When it comes to hands-on interest, it ain't going to be the guys that get it, end quote. That's an interesting quote. Despite Prince's work with the time, Prince was overwhelmingly drawn to working with female artists. Groups like Vanity 6, Apollonia 6, The Bangles, Sheila E., Sheena Easton, and others all benefited from his ability to write music from a female perspective. He seemed to thrive in situations that included female energy, so his insistence on overseeing Maserati felt slightly out of place. Although his complete list of reasons for it will never be known, it is important that the band be put in historical context. Maserati would be the first band signed to Paisley Park Records, even though their debut album wasn't the first release on the label. At this moment, he was overseeing two bands to replace the time. It was likely important to Prince to prove to others that the time was great because of him. The idea of having his new protege bands not stack up against Morris Day and Jesse Johnson might potentially bother him. So he maintained as much control as possible. When Prince heard the Maserati album, he decided to take the tapes into Studio 3 and create his own mixes on songs like 100 Mile Per Hour so they reflect how he envisioned the band. It is likely that Prince also worked on the crossfades and mixes for several of the tracks and perhaps even adjusted the order of the songs, which was appreciated according to Brown Mark. Quote, this is Brown Mark, quote, he was just trying to help us out. I mean, nobody's feelings were being hurt. He was just trying to come up with a record that would get them on the map, end quote. This is Coke Johnson speaking now. Quote, Prince came in with the total confidence and authority over everybody within his realm. Coke Johnson explains, he continues, quote, he rarely questioned his decisions. It was like he had God-given answers from his heart and from his gut about what he wanted to do and how it should sound and all of that stuff. His name was Prince, but he was the king of his dominion, end quote.
Yeah, I was really pulling for them back in the day. Like I was pulling for them really strong because I really wanted Maserati to do well. I'm glad to see he took some interest in it. I just wanted them to do well.
Do y'all think that Maserati, and this is where look impacts sound, do you think that Maserati might have gotten caught up in the flood of what people saw as Prince knockoff groups? Because you had Ready for the World, you had Maserati. Like I was a Ready for the World guy. And I would admit that I was probably a much more Ready for the World guy than a Maserati guy. Brother Turnbull, don't come for me. But I just wonder if one of Maserati's problems was dudes in makeup sound like Prince. Here's another dudes in makeup sound like Prince, and people would just get. Plus, you got hip hop is gaining, right? What's the well, I was going to use the Parliament Funkadelic, but they're actually saying gaming on you, not gaining on you. But hip hop is gaining, and I just wonder if y'all saw Maserati counter as a casualty of that. I'll shut up.
I would kind of agree. I remember seeing how they looked, and I was like, wow, they're like they look like they jumped right out of the Purple Rain sort of bag. you know, the long
Out of
hair
the
and everything.
crowd, out of
Yeah.
the crowd of the movie.
And I
Right.
think it was starting to get the look of the aesthetic was getting played out to me, not the music. But I can understand. I think certain people were kind of, it was getting a little passe, that
Mhm.
style. And this is after, I think, did Jesse's solo album was already out at this point, or, and to
Yeah,
me,
it was.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, it
that was
was.
the thing that Jesse had that look, but the difference to me, Jesse had that authentic sound. Like he had cuts. You know what I'm saying? Like you could play them records and he didn't care what it looked like. They was bangers. And I don't think again, I'm not shitting on Maserati, but it just didn't have the same and somebody said in the comments like a hairband or something. To me, it kind of came off. I thought there was going to be rock or something, and I was a little confused on what was their sound, and it was a hard sell to try and do the Prince sound and it not be as good as Prince. I felt that way when the family came out. As much as I loved Screams of Passion, again, just seeing it, I was just like, I didn't know that Prince had anything to do with it at first. And I was like, man, this sounds like a knockoff Prince. This is good. But, I was like, I didn't know if this was Prince or not. And I started questioning it. So with Maserati, I knew that they were with Prince, but I was just like, this is cool. You know what I'm saying? But the way it looked, it did throw me off. I just thought it was a little too much with that style. But, yeah.
Mhm. You on mute?
Yeah, like they didn't have a grounded aesthetic.
Right.
I mean, about them.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, the time kind of had a grounded an aesthetic meaning. They may have had their hair, kind of done up, but they had suits and they
Right.
had gear that you could go out and buy gear that guys in the neighborhood wore or something like that. Like Maserati didn't have. They had this glam thing, and
Mhm.
Prince being glam is one thing. Like we kind of knew that. Like some
You know,
other guys
yeah.
kind of coming out, it was kind of different. And then like to like Ceely's point up against the like Run DMC, like Raising Hell came out around that time. Like LL's first album,
Mhm.
I know, was out, so it was like a different. You had
Mhm.
these extremes, and one was more grounded than say the other. Um,
Changing of the guard.
yeah.
The culture was shifting. It was moving really
And
fast.
so that Prince doing it is one thing, like it's like accepted and it was cool, what I'm saying, some man, some unknown brothers, not really known, kind of looking that way.
Hmm.
It was like, I mean, on one hand you knew they were a band. You know what I mean? Like when you saw them, it was like, okay, yeah, they must do music, because ain't no way they're looking, hair that long and makeup and all that, not doing music. So like they had that, but at the same time, it was kind of like, it just didn't seem grounded, in a certain. But like when you saw them on the Under the Cherry Moon, say premiere party, say performing, they just looked like some regular brothers in suit, like in some,
Right. Right.
suit that they didn't have on like the glam look, like at that party. So I think probably if they would have kept that part of it going, that might have worked out better for them. But when you see that album cover and you look at the pictures on, say, the back, you're like, wow, man, these brothers are really done up.
Mhm.
Um,
Too, just to throw in there, I think from what we were just reading, Prince thinking maybe, or they're saying maybe he had to sort of prove that it was him that made the time what it was, not, and I think that was a crucial misstep. It was those guys, it was all of them
Right.
that made that thing great, and I think
Right.
it's one of those things where you see a camp that sort of one person feels like they are the thing, and you come to realize, maybe it was all of us together that really kind of pushed that, made it what it was. I look at it the same way. I look at like when Jodeci, Devontae, he had everybody. He had Timberland, Missy, Genuine, and they were all on their records, right? And then when they leave, it wasn't just Devontae who made those records dope. You saw it was all those cats
Right.
had something to do with it. And you can only imagine what it would have been like if they stayed together. And it's the same thing with Prince. I'm like, it's fantastic and as talented as Prince is and was. Yeah, he had some of the best cats in the game was in his camp. And, you know, they were contributing, even if it was just them being there and the energy that they probably brought to the stage show still bled into their overall perception of everything that they did. So even though Prince was playing on a lot of those records, Jam, Lewis, Jelly Bean, Jesse, any one of them could have easily gave them some number one hits and could have kept, you know, so when all of that sort of breaks apart, you can see it. I think it does affect Prince a little bit.
Yeah.
Even if it's just a mental thing,
Mm-hmm.
thinking maybe I have to prove something when he doesn't. But I think it all played into that, you know.
And I would just say to Heavenly Gains, I don't disagree with you, Heavenly Gains, and I don't even. I've struggled articulating this, so I agree, Heavenly Gains, that Jesse was known and had a fan base, but I think that also would help Jesse. And I know that you're not saying that you're not disagreeing with this, Heavenly Gains. By the time Jesse steps out on his own, he's a really damn good songwriter. He's a really damn good performer. And most importantly, Jesse did not sound like a Prince ripoff. Like Jesse's first album sounds like a Jesse Johnson album. Like, yes, they're in the same. It's like if you like the blues, of course, Albert King is going to remind you of B.B. King if you don't know anything about the blues. But if you inside the blues, you'll understand that Albert King is not B.B. King and B.B. King is not Freddie King. And so I think that, and maybe I'm always on, as people on the screen know, that I'm on this Jesse Johnson soapbox because one of the reasons that I ended up not liking hip hop is because I feel like hip hop cheated me out of a fourth Jesse Johnson album. In real time, Jesse Johnson was building momentum to be that dude. And because hip hop changed everything, I feel cheated that I didn't get a Jesse Johnson fourth album in real time. But I think that,
hey, look, I agree with you, brother.
That everybody who loved Prince, there was nobody who loved Prince who saw Jesse Johnson as a Prince knockoff. Jesse was, and also let's be clear, Jesse leaned into big beats and bass in a way that Prince was kind of moving away from. And you know, Prince was removing bass from his records, and Jesse was not removing bass from his records. And Jesse was really, really intentional about being played on black radio. Like Jesse didn't run from being played on black radio. So I would say all those things that I just want to give Jesse Johnson his credit for three really good, really what I call really great first three albums. And that he was his own sound in the Prince universe, if I can put it that way. I'll shut up.
Look, I like that quote that you just put up that said that Maserati was a black poison. Yeah.
I would say, I said this before, Jesse was the Warren G to Prince as the Dr. Dre. You know, he was underneath Dre. He came up with ideas and songs on the Chronic, right? Not necessarily credited. Same with Jesse. Around 1999 sessions, if he did not play, if he played on it, all the stuff that was being recorded during that period, Jesse's in there. He's under tutelage, you know, so he's soaking it up and contributing. But he's a part of that sound. It's the same way Warren G, when he leaves, it almost is like he becomes G-Funk, but he was always a part of it. And he had his hits, but he stays in his bag of that particular sound. And to me, that's what Jesse did. I don't think it's hip hop that did Jesse. And I saw the word. I think it's New Jack Swing, and just the changing of R&B, more sort of maybe hip hop influence in terms of the producers were hip hop heads, you know, like a Teddy, and that started to, you saw the influence into their production. And I think he had to change his sound, and I don't think that was his bag. You know,
right.
The Crash sort of kind of shows that, but. Yeah, I mean, he was a fantastic musician. He could play. I just think the thing with Jesse, I almost felt like, I wonder if he was just doing Minneapolis sound because that's what was hitting, but he was actually a far more talented musician and probably could have done blues or rock.
Yep.
way better in earlier, but I don't know if he just thought maybe that would have been too much of a risk for my fan base. But I would have been like, man, follow what Prince did. He didn't turn his back, but he was just an artist and he did all types of music and made the audience get on board with what he was doing instead of just giving the audience what you thought they wanted. And I think if he'd have did that fourth album a little earlier, I think he would have had a whole nother career lane. Maybe if he'd have came out like when Lenny was starting to come out,
right,
he could have really came and owned that space. You know what I'm saying? But that's just the hypothetical.
And I'll just end it on this because I agree with everything you said, Brother Dean. I know I'm gonna get again. It's all subjective. It's all subjective. Verbal penetration comes out around the same time, I think, as either D'Angelo's second or third album. I can't remember because I was a Brown Sugar fan. I didn't really dig Voodoo and the other one. And it was always, and I look, I made copies of Verbal Penetration and I sent out copies of Verbal Penetration saying, this is what D'Angelo tried to do. And I know that was cold for me. And I know I was hating. I know I would admit,
say it the other way around.
I noted that I was hating, but when I heard Verbal Penetration, like I was really like, D'Angelo wish he could do this. That's how much I love Verbal Penetration. So, but I want to say that not as slight to D'Angelo, but to kind of what Brother Dean was saying about the whole package of Jesse Johnson. If you have not heard Verbal Penetration, I think you have missed a monster musical master class. I'll shut up.
Yeah, that came out right before. Well, it came out years before Black Messiah, but I think that may have been probably one of the reasons why he got the gig outside of his, previous work and just being like who he is. But
there's what's the song he had on his greatest hits collection? He put a new song on it, and it sounded so much.
Oh, I love
it. To me, I thought he was trying to do D'Angelo personally. Like I can see the influence, and I wasn't mad at it. But
And as much as I hate sampling, the first thing I heard about Vibe, and I don't know why I went there, I guess because he was the one that was out. But the first time I heard Vibe, I was like, that sounds like something that T.I. would sample. Like it was like when you talk. So when you mentioned the D'Angelo thing, and I also went to like, Vibe was. If Jesse Johnson was writing something saying I'm gonna write something that MCs could sample, Vibe to me would have been a perfect song for MCs to grab and sample.
What's this? Now I'm just tripping. He had a banger song on the soundtrack to White Man Can't Jump.
Gotta get to know. White Man Can't Jump. I don't remember that. I know one of them was on the Breakfast Club.
Jump forward.
Yeah.
Jump on.
And don't forget the writing he did for the 5 Heartbeats.
Oh, okay. So I got
nights like this, I wish.
Yeah, that's Jesse Johnson.
Yeah.
Wow.
Raindrops would fall. Hey, that's a moneymaker for him.
Look, I hate. I'm always the one giving Prof Dust more work. Like I ain't giving him no money, but I'm giving him more work. I really do think at some point we gonna have to do maybe not a Jesse Johnson symposium, but maybe an online something where you have people break down each one of his albums, and then we talk about the writing he did for other people. I think that Jesse Johnson is deserving of something.
Oh, man, yes, sir.
So that we document just how productive and great he was. That's it. I'll say.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm down for that one.
All right, we're going to move on to Thursday, May 9th. Michael, do you mind taking that one?
Yes. Thursday, May 9th, 1985. 100 miles an hour, baby. Edits, vocal overdubs, and more edits. Strawberry Lover, edits, vocal overdubs, and more edits. Sunset Sound, Studio 3. 4 p.m. to 4:45. Man, that's a short. Oh no, I'm sorry. Let me read it again. 4 o'clock p.m. to 4:45 p.m.
a.m.
Damn,
12 hours, 45 minutes.
I know it's like, and that's probably where Jesse was like, nights like this. Booked and locked. Producer Prince, artist Mazarati, listed as Prince, engineer Prince, assistant engineers Peggy Mac Leonard and Coke Johnson. Peggy Mac left at 10:30 p.m. Okay.
Peggy said, "I'm out."
Hey, Peggy Mac was Kim. Peggy Mac was Kim before Kim.
She was like not nights like this. Anyway,
Let's read the quote.
Okay. Prince continued to work on tweaks to the remaining.
Let's read the quote. I want to read the quote.
Oh, back it up. From the top. Let me catch it. He changed his mind at 3:00 in the morning and want to do something different. Yeah, he did that a lot. David Z. Rifkin.
So that means that like you done pulled 12 hours. And the last people, like, you know what? I think I want to do something different. Fresh tape.
Can we get an orchestra in here? Yes, it's 3:00 in the morning. Prince continued to work on tweaks to the remaining tracks for the Maserati album, including some additional vocals by Sir Casey Terry. He's got an interesting name. It sounds like royalty.
Sir Terry Casey. We keep. Yeah, it's okay.
No, wait. In my book it says Sir. That's Sir Casey Terry.
Oh, so in our book it's correct. It's Sir Terry Casey.
Okay.
Now that makes sense. Okay.
On Strawberry Leopard, he was making adjustments to the song during the entire night, fixing what he felt needed work, and smoothing over sections that sounded clunky to his ear. 2 C90 cassettes were made of the session, but when he listened to it, Prince must have felt that it wasn't ready yet, because a few hours later, he'd be back in the studio working on the Maserati album once again.
You know, I am happy to see that he was invested in like trying to make Maserati work or make it be successful. Like, you know, he just didn't kind of just leave it out there to, you know, kind of, so he did put some time in. And had his hand in, say, the mix, playing solos here, doing vocal overdub, things like that. So, you know.
So I'm trying to figure out. I'm looking. So everywhere I'm looking, I don't have my Maserati album on me. Can someone get a Maserati album if you have one? It's in the other room, and check to see what his name is listed on. Because on principle, it is Casey Terry.
Right.
But in the revised version, Duane changed it to Terry Casey. So I'm curious why he changed it, but I
always thought that Terry was his first name, but the way Prince and them do things, they swapped it.
Yeah.
That's what I kind of thought that happened was they swapped it.
That makes sense, actually.
Yeah, Prince loves messing with people's names.
Yeah. That I'll take that, C. Lee. All right. I can't believe it. We're finally making it to Friday because Prince didn't supposedly do anything on Saturday. That's the other book. All right. Friday, May 10th, 1985. Strawberry Lover edits, vocal overdubs, and mix. I guess it's all over mix. My man. Tracking, mix. Sunset Sounds 3, 6 p.m. to 7 a.m. 6 p.m. to 7 a.m. Booked, locked out. Producer Prince, artist Maserati, and Jill Jones. Listed as Prince, engineer Prince, assistant engineers Coke Johnson and Susan Rogers. Peggy was like, I'm out of here. So I'm not coming back. This is Jill Jones' quote. Prince doesn't do anything else but work in the studio. If he's not in the studio, he's either on tour or rehearsing with the band. He never takes a vacation, and in the little time off he does have, he goes back in the studio again. He sometimes doesn't come out for days. That's just the way he is, a very driven man. Prince went back into the studio to make the final tweaks on the Maserati tracks, spending about 8.5 hours working with Coke and Susan on the overdubs and crossfades between the songs for the final compilation of their album, plus additional mixing on I Guess It's All Over, and adding Jill Jones on background vocals for Strawberry Lover. Although it had been a while since he'd worked with Jones, he apparently wanted her voice on the track, so he asked her to swing by the studio, as she recalls. During the Purple Rain tour, we weren't speaking, actually. We had a falling out, and we were not talking, but I did go on the tour just to visit everybody else, and I wouldn't talk to him. And then at the end of and then at the end of it, we got back together after the final show in Miami. At 2:30, he began working on a new track called My Man, supposedly based on a rough demo he recorded on his acoustic guitar. The one I actually really, okay, I'm sorry. I'm going to stop here and I'll read the rest. So one of the things that has always bugged me is that I feel like if Jill's album would have come out during the Purple Rain era, that it would have done much better. And it always bothered me that she wasn't on the Purple Rain tour, but now I understand why that she wasn't, but I just wanted to say that. All right. At 2:30, he began working on a new track called My Man, supposedly based on a rough demo he recorded on his acoustic guitar, just like he did for Kiss. That one I actually really, really liked, recalled Jones. Prince wrote that, of course. I had gotten into Elvis for some reason. Prince and I watched Elvis's 68 comeback special together. It was pretty phenomenal just to watch Elvis in his prime. He looked the best. My Man came off of watching that inspiration. It wasn't just the music that inspired them. Even Elvis's name and lights ended up having an influence on how her logo was designed, according to Jones. Ideally, we had wanted to show the words Jill Jones behind me, like how Elvis had the letters of his name behind him. And since then, everybody's done it. Even Beyonce's done it. For the song, Prince recorded a combination of Fairlight, Yamaha DX7, bass guitar, an acoustic and electric guitar over a blend of a snare and a Linn LM1 drum track. The 13-hour session ended at 7 in the morning when 2 C90 cassettes were created of the day's recordings. Status, My Man, 3 minutes and 15 seconds would eventually contain Jones's vocals when it was released on her debut album in 1987. Claire Fisher oversaw the orchestral recording for My Man on June 24th, 1985.
Love it. Love it.
So, two quick things. If you have not seen the Elvis comeback special 1968, you need to see it, both because it's artistically great, but it's also important to American culture. So I would say that those are the two reasons you need to see it. Excuse me. And I'll say this. Here's also why it's important. For many years, and it shouldn't have, because actually in 1957, Jet Magazine actually did an article to debunk this rumor. But for many years, and then even after Elvis died, Elvis was, the quote attributed to Elvis was, the only thing a black person can do for me is buy my records and shine my shoes. And so if you wonder when what's my man, Fight the Power,
Chuck D.
When Chuck D makes that statement about Elvis and John Wayne, Chuck D says that, he said later, I was reacting to the fact that Elvis had once said, the only thing a black person can do for me is buy my records and shine my shoes. What's interesting, like I said, in 1957, Jet had already debunked that rumor. But what's important about that 1968 comeback is that in that 1968 comeback, Elvis says specifically, there's a lot of new music that's out today. It's all black R&B. Like, I don't know, so it's funny that this thing of Elvis being a racist kind of dogged him doing it after his career. Yet you have what's considered the 1968 comeback is probably, there's some debate between is the 1968 comeback or that Elvis 1977 Aloha from Hawaii, because the 1977 Aloha from Hawaii was the first time anything was simulcast. Like, that's the very first simulcast around the world, same time. So you have one of the biggest things that ever happened on television and the biggest artist of all time to say all new music is basically black R&B. And so I think the 1968 special is important just for that. And then I'll end on what you talk about with Jill's album coming out 2 years later. and I think about how many works get what's the word I want to use, sabotage. And I don't mean sabotage as but how many works get sabotaged. And I'll just say that I have a mentee. She has a new collection of poetry. I have written a blurb. I turned in the blurb for her new collection of poetry last week. I turned in the blurb, and she was just told by the publishing company it was supposed to come out in 2005. Now they're saying it's not going to come out. I mean, it was supposed to come out at the end of 2025. Now it's not going to come out till the middle of 2026. So I'm with you. It's amazing how many works of art get sabotaged simply because, okay, 73. I thought it was, thank you, Smitty Rock, 73. How many works of art get sabotaged, not because they're not good, but because they're delayed. And then once they're delayed, they become dated, or the record company doesn't have the interest of putting the money behind them to promote them. I'll shut up. You're on mute.
I keep muting myself because there's like what do you call it? Lawnmower was loud. Okay, so we went through all of this, and we're gonna break this. So Andre 3000 has a new EP out, 7 piano sketches. It's all nothing but piano. I love it because it's instrumental, and I'm on Andre's frequency. So if you haven't checked it out, I'd be curious to hear what people think about it. And everyone should have seen Andre or photos of Andre at the Met Gala with a piano on his back, which is really crazy. I personally loved it. I thought it was really funny, and it tied into this EP release. Bilal's on tour. There's an Alice Coltrane tribute coming up at Carnegie Hall on May 16th, which I'm really looking forward to. Tickets to Celebration are on sale. Des Dickerson has a GoFundMe, so please donate to Des. And we have the accompanying playlist which has the Jerk Out by Maserati. So if you want to check that out, you can. And that's, even though I didn't, this is from last week, but there is the new one for 19th. All right. So, Anne, I love this. I love that El Michelle is bringing us back how we started. Today is the anniversary of Lovesexy.
So in honor of Lovesexy Day, go find you a whole bunch of flowers and get naked and lay in there. That's Lovesexy Day. Get naked in a whole thing of Lovesexy flowers. Make sure the stem is doing what stems do. That is it. That is your PSA.
Lord.
See, my name is Andre Crabtree III. I got more holes in a golf course.
There you go. There you go. That's one of my favorite lines from Lovesexy. Thank you, brother. While we there, I do got to say, I am disappointed in the 3 people on this screen. I'm disappointed in y'all. And the reason I'm disappointed in y'all, when we did our 4 minutes of quoting Undeclared Moon, I am disappointed that not one of y'all said, you probably start off real quiet at first. Then you get loud.
Then you get black.
Oh, shit, baby. Christmas. Oh, go, baby, go. I am disappointed that not one of y'all. None of that quote. All right, that is it for me for the week.
Oh, man.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Let's end with I Wish You Heaven as a palate cleanser. And we're going to have Michael D take us on out.
Well, man, I don't know how to top that, but we'll say, I was going to say salute and happy Mother's Day. I'm going to day earlier, but happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. We all got a mother. So happy Mother's Day. We wouldn't be here without our mothers. You know what I'm saying? I'm getting ready to go have lunch with my mom as I walk out of here. But thank you, D'Angela, Ricky, Mr. Pastor, Seeley, and to the audience as well. Listen, have a good one. Work it like a job. We'll see you next time. Peace.
Y'all be easy.